I can't figure out how they decide what they do with their pitchers. And that's clear because on the national pregame show, when we were talking about the playoffs for the Dodgers, I thought it was guaranteed that Shohei Ohtani was to start a certain game. Then my cohort, Dan Plesac and I had a bit of a wager put on it. Anyway, let me just show you. I don't want to describe it. Let me take you back to this Shohei Ohtani wager I made. How about this? If Shohei Ohtani starts game 2, I get to open this bottle on live TV and pour it on your head.
Okay.
If he doesn't start game 2,
you get to do
that to me.
Oh, take that bet.
I'm taking it.
Take that
you
bet.
heard it here on national TV.
Excellent.
Ohtani will not pitch games 1 and 2.
We had a little wager on our show where if I believe Shohei Ohtani's going to start game 2, Dan Plesac said he's not going to start game 2. And if Ohtani does not start game 2, Dan gets to open up a bottle of champagne and pour it on my head live on the air. I get to do it to Dan if Ohtani does start game 2. So I'm talking to the GM of the Dodgers so you can settle this. Who's going to start for the Dodgers game 2?
Oh, I feel like you guys need to sweat this out a little bit longer. So we'll talk about it more post game, and then hopefully we'll see some champagne being poured out at some point.
We want the champagne on Greg, Brandon, please.
Ohtani's not starting game 2. I was wrong. I've been wrong a couple times in my life. And kids, it's time to pay when you talk too much. Come on! Come on, man! That's campaign. Don't get it on the mic.
Oh, yeah. Look at all that product in your hair.
Feel the burn.
I can't believe it.
Yes!
Oh, that's beautiful.
Brandon Gomes, look what you did to me.
I completely forgot about that.
I appreciate you, big dog. Unbelievable moment.
Oh, man.
You guys are still just in the afterglow moment of winning another world championship. Is there a race when you get to the winter meetings to address things at the same level when you haven't won 2 straight world championships?
I think we certainly try not to have that mentality even prior to the last few years. I think it's all about making sure you can put out the most well-rounded roster that's going to compete for a championship that year. That mindset's exactly the same right now, and we've been very aggressive the last 2 off seasons, which means we have a very talented group right now. So now it's having very targeted conversations on how do you build out the best roster from there.
Look, obviously, our last guest called you the gold standard in the industry for how you run your operations, so it's fascinating to watch. And I guess one of the questions is, as you have a talented roster that's had a great deal of success, there's an inclination where you can almost get a little sentimental or hold on to guys as they get older. And last year, I believe you had about 3 position players who were under the age of 30. Is there coming a time, whether it's now or in the not-too-distant future, where you're going to have to start pivoting more to younger players just to keep the music going longer?
Yeah, I think that's a constant balance. Now, the good thing is, the aging curve is not what it used to be. Our guys, our veteran players take such good care of themselves. It's a huge focus of nutrition and recovery and making sure they're taking care of themselves. And, we're fortunate enough to have a really good farm system, so making sure that there's a well-balanced roster, that inevitably injuries happen, and it's timing up, okay, is it time for this younger guy to go and take those everyday reps right out the gate, or allow for things to happen and, flow in a different way where they're still going to get their reps, get to, put a foot in, maybe not have to be relied upon so heavily, and then kind of ease them in that way. So it's certainly a balancing act that's not easy, but it's front of mind for sure.
Brandon, you're talking about your talented farm system. You got some talented outfielders coming. When I looked at Game 7, I'm like, this is how they do it. Tommy Edman in center, right? You have Teoscar in right, and then you have Kike, who's a free agent who just turns it on somehow in the postseason and gets it done. I know Tommy has had ankle surgery, and Kike is a free agent. How do you look at your outfield as you move forward into spring training?
Yeah, obviously have Andy in that mix who played at
and Pyatt, yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
So it's kind of looking at what's our internal options, which once again we feel like it's a really high bar to get above that, and then figuring out whether it's free agency or trade, are there moves that we can make to supplement and be a real impact move to move championship type odds. And that's we're in the good fortune of being able to do that with the roster we have coming in.
When we put graphics together for shows like this, should the 2026 projected rotation have Roki Sasaki in it?
Absolutely.
It should.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, and there was no hesitation on that at all.
No.
So what we saw in October was just a need at that moment in time.
For sure. I think it speaks to Roki as a competitor and, the culture that Doc and our veteran players have built to hey, however I can help right now, all I want to do is win. And at that moment, that was Roki's position to help us win, and he fully embraced it and dominated, and now use that as a springboard to go out and be the dominant starter that we feel like he can be.
Obviously, relievers are tough to project, and guys with great track records can have down years and then get back right on track. And given the performance at the end of the year last year, is back into the bullpen something you're prioritizing over the coming weeks, or is the thought more that Tanner Scott and Blake Trinan have long histories of success and they're allowed a blip here every so often like most relievers?
Yeah, I think it's certainly that. We expect, really good years from both those guys. Their track records speak for themselves. You also have Brock Stewart coming back, Brusdar Graterol, Alex Vesey has been a mainstay. So we feel like we have a very talented bullpen group as it is. Our younger guys, you have the Will Klein game, like these guys that we know are talented just aren't as famous. So it's a very talented group. Now it's about is there something that makes sense to bring on a reliever that is a real impact, or do we continue to look at how do we round out that group and make sure we have depth? So I think we have our different options, but we feel like the pitching depth as is very high.
Now, on the outside looking in, it's always what questions do you ask, Brand? How many questions can you ask this guy when you win back to back? But I guess I would ask you more of, how much fun are you having as you go through this, the trials and tribulations of figuring out rosters and stuff like that?
Yeah, the winning after the fact is very fun. During it, there's highs and lows and not the greatest quality of life. Obviously, wouldn't trade it for anything, but it's making sure that as a group that we're appreciating the wins along the way and not just getting so hyper focused on okay, let's do it again. That is certainly the focus, but if there's small breaks in there, making sure to appreciate.
No doubt,
winning's fun.
Who's the most anxious person of the front office during Game 7 of the World Series?
Oh God, that's everybody. We had our whole group watching it, and we're all running at 100 out of 10. I had my son sitting on my lap as my security blanket and talking to him the whole time. So you could it'd be hard not to peg myself, but I think everybody was running up there pretty high. Yeah.
Pretty great moment in time. Brandon Gomes, thanks so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you guys.
You got my hair wet.
You're welcome.
Totally fine. Totally fine. I'd do it for you.